Hi everyone. So the next one we have is a short story is A Conversation from the Third Floor. This is by Mohammed El Basati. So I want you to keep in mind this is a very, very simple story. Might be a little bit confused by it, but this is going to be more of a study in the setting in which it takes place, and you'll understand more once you get the assignment. So let's get started. She came to the place for the second time. The policeman stared down at her from his horse. This time was afternoon. The yellow-colored wall was stretched right along the road. Inside the wall was a large rectangular three-story building. Its small identical windows looked more like dark apertures. The woman stood a few paces away from the horse. The policeman looked behind him at the windows, then at the woman. He placed both the hands on the pommel of the saddle and closed his eyes. After a while, the horse moved. It was standing halfway down the street. Then a moment later, it made a half turn and once again stood itself at the top of the street. The woman came 2 steps forward. The horse bent one of its forelegs, then gently lowered it. "Sergeant, please, just let me say 2 words to him." His eyes remained closed, his hands motionless on the pommel. Above the wall stretched a fencing of barbed wire, at the end of which was a wooden tower. Inside there stood an armed soldier. The woman took another step forward. "You see, he's being transferred." The sun had passed beyond the central point in the sky. Despite this, the weather was still hot. A narrow patch of shade lay at the bottom of the wall. The woman transferred the child to her shoulder. When she again looked at the policeman's face, she noticed 2 lines of sweat on his forehead. Quietly, she moved away from... Sorry. Hold on. Alright, sorry, had to take care of a dog. Quietly, she moved away from in front of the horse and walked beside the wall. About halfway along it, she sat down on a heap of stones opposite the building. The prisoners' washing, hung by the arms and legs, could be seen. Washing meaning their clothing, not themselves. She took the child between her hands and lifted him above her head. She noticed his arms suddenly being withdrawn inside and his hands gripping the iron bars of the window. Then his face disappeared from view. For a while she searched for him among the faces that looked down. She lowered her arms a little and heard shouts of laughter from the window. She spotted his arm once again, stretching outwards. Then his face appeared clearly in the middle. "Up, Aziza, up. Face him towards the sun so I can see him." She lowered her arms for a moment, then raised him up again. Turning his face toward the sun, the child closed his eyes and burst out crying. "He's crying." He turned around laughing. "The boy's crying. That little so-and-so. Aziza, woman, keep him crying." He cupped his hand round his mouth and shouted, "Let him cry." Again he laughed. A few shouts went up around him. She heard their words and shouting. Then she saw his large nose poking through the bars. "Woman, don't be silly. That's enough. Cover towel, boy. He'll get sunstroke." She hugged the child to her chest and saw the soldier withdrawing inside the tower. "Did you prune the 2 date palms?" She shook her head. "Why not?" "Why don't you talk? I'm being transferred." "Pass by Abu Ismail and tell him I send him my best wishes. He'll do it as a favor and prune the trees. Then you can bring along a few dates." "Did you bring the cigarettes?" She made a sign with her hand. "Talk. What are you saying?" "You've got 'em." "Louder, woman." "You've got 'em. I sent them to you." "When?" "Just now." Her face was against the sun. She shifted her head veil slightly from her head. "They took a couple packets. Never mind, Aziza, never mind." He laughed. His voice had become calm. The other faces disappeared from above him, only a single face remaining alongside his. "Did you build the wall?" "Not yet." "Why not?" "My Uncle Ahmed lights the furnace. When Uncle Ahmed lights the furnace, I'll get some bricks from him." "All right. Be careful on the tram. Look after the boy." She remained standing. "Anything you want?" "No." She gazed at his face, his large nose, his bare arms. She smiled. The face next to him smiled back. Suddenly he shouted, "Did you get the letter? I'm being transferred." "Where to?" "I don't know." When? You see, they're pulling down the prison. Where will you go? God knows. Anywhere. No one knows. When? In 2 or 3 days. Don't come here again. I'll let you know when I'm transferred. Has the boy gone to sleep? No, he's awake. He stared back for a while in silence. Aziza! Again there was silence. The face along his smiled, then slowly slid back inside and disappeared. Her husband remained silent, his arms around the bars. Suddenly he glanced behind him and quickly drew in his arms. He signaled her to move away, then disappeared from the window. He stepped back, though she remained standing, looking up at the window. More to come.